Wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Well, good morning and welcome back to week 5, short week 5 for the Enterprise D. Thanksgiving week of 2018, so not a lot of stuff is going to get done. I'll probably try to get this up maybe Wednesday night, Thursday, who knows. But because it's going to be a short week, I thought we would concentrate on doing something colorful because I need to get some stuff on this. I spoke to Ralph this morning. We are in constant contact. Spoke to Ralph this morning, and we had to make a revision to the programming on the boards based on some conversations over the weekend. I wanted certain lights grouped together that weren't grouped together on the way he had it wired up. So that's the great thing about Ralph is he'll take even illogical requests, but he'll take them and adapt his boards to meet what you need. So, but I figured since we're going to do something, it's going to be a short week, we'll do something colorful, and that is we're going to add the blue lights. We're going to have a blue light special for those of you in the old Kmart days that remember what a blue light special is. We're going to have a blue light special on the Enterprise D, getting the Bassards hopefully closed up, because I should, now that I know how the wiring is going to go, I should be able to do the top part of the wiring and get that buttoned up, and then the bottom part that comes out of the pylon goes to the boards. But we should be able to get the top part done. So let's stop this and get on to the actual patient. Okay, here is the patient, and I've got it on the actual. This is the actual base I picked up over the weekend, and I put in the actual fitting and all of that. But I put in a tiny stub of a piece of copper tubing. It's not going to be this low on the final base, but I wanted to have something low and easy to work with, so I cut off a small piece and fit it this way. But when we last left our patient Friday, I was putting in this structure here for the central lights for the windows. And what I'm going to do now is cobble together something that works for the nacelle, and then duplicate that over there, and get the blue lights in the front to shine out for the deflector. And I think if we can get all that done this week, that will be a gracious plenty. If I can get these guys sealed up, that will be tremendous. And then that will leave all of the Thanksgiving long weekend to let the everything cure. So let's get on with it. First thing we need to do is light block as much of the inside of the engines as feasible, and I'm going to do that with the silver tape because it's very lightweight, it's very effective at light block, and it's better, and it's a lot neater and cleaner than trying to put on a bunch of coats of paint. Now the only thing that I have to be very particular about is that it is metal tape. These are metal wires. I need to make sure that everything here is insulated very well. It does not touch or short out on the metal tape. Good morning and welcome to Light Leak Central. It's Tuesday, working on the Galaxy class. I've got the nacelles temporarily closed up, but I wanted you to see how things were looking before I get back into tearing them apart and showing you what I did yesterday to finish up. Yes, you're seeing all kinds of light leak. That's going to happen, but the important thing is I've got this nice blue even glow going all the way around the nacelles, and I haven't killed myself yet, which is good. So the goals for today is to get these guys permanently glued down, the tops glued down, maybe get the fronts epoxied in place, and I got a good plan for the deflector. I just need to get it wired in, and if I unify some wiring, we may be dangerously close to being able to put the top on and getting the, which has become my new stretch goal. My original goal was to get this far this week, or as far as I'm going to finish today, and I still have today, tomorrow, and that's it. I can't do anything on Thursday, but I've got today and tomorrow, so I may, if I get everything I get done today that I want to get done, I may be able to close the secondary hull up tomorrow, and wouldn't that be a good achievement for the week? So let's get back to showing you what's all inside there that looks so nice and clean here, but it won't be when I take the top off. Okay, so I've opened up one of the nacelles so you can see the anatomy of exactly what's going on in here. Here you can see a homemade, crudely made, horribly scratch-built cage that is basically just a white box that I could mount the blue strip lighting to. This is blue strip lighting going all the way around that. There are two 5mm blue pointing out the front, will light up this wider area that the strip lighting just doesn't, to me, just doesn't capture that well. I wanted something far enough back that it would shine out into it without you seeing the source of it that easily. Here is the very fine magnet wire coming up out of the strobe. Here is the wiring for these two lights here, and also the join of the two red 5mm that are in the Bassard collector. So all of this gets pushed down and joined to the this is the wire coming out of the top, which takes care of the same strobe that's in the top half of the engine. And it's all this stuff is hot glued in because I thought that was the best, quickest way to attach it without putting in a bunch of adhesive or a bunch of epoxy. And I'll tell you the reason why I didn't use epoxy in this situation like I normally would have is that there's a lot of gapping going on here, and epoxy just would have flowed in and kept flowing until this was all filled up, and that's not what I wanted to do. So hot glue, I was able to tack it in place in a few key places, and hot glue sets up really fast, so you don't have to worry about it seeping and going away. So hot glued this frame in. I need to see, this is just in by the tension of the wiring. You can see it comes right back up, and what I need to do is I probably, because you know they're nice and all, but there are a couple keys on, you can see that here, there's a key right there that may or may not end up being in the right place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that key off top and bottom, and that will allow me to position this in a way that I need to position it, giving me a little bit more latitude. So what I'm going to do is seal the tops and bottoms of both the nacelles, kind of leave these hanging out, and then once they're dry and set up, I can do a real good job then of just, you know, eyeballing the center to make sure that this is center, top and bottom, right and left. Which brings us to the adhesive. Now, when it comes time to join top and bottom here on the nacelles, the first impulse would be to use CA. Well, I say impulse on a warp engine. I get the irony. The first impulse would be to use CA, but CA is going to set up too thick. This needs to go under a bit of pressure to kind of get squeezed down in place and all of that. So I immediately shift over to a 5 or a 15-minute epoxy. The problem with that is epoxy can yellow. The glue itself can yellow. I was going to be worried about whether or not you'd see a yellow seam in here, but because the light is so strong, I will be able to paint the copper highlighting on this like I wanted to. I was afraid if the light was too weak, then it was never going to shine out through the copper dry brush, and I would be better off just leaving that clear, in which case, yeah, the glue you use would show up a lot more. But since that's not going to be an issue, I'm going to go ahead and use 15-minute epoxy. I don't think I've got any 5-minute here. I think I've either got 1 minute or 15, and I think the 15 is what I'm going to use. Use some epoxy in here because I need to get some good clampage, and actually what I'm probably going to use is rubber bands to hold this together and let that set up, and then I will just position this in the center. So now that everything is pushed in and working, I'll test the lights one more time before I get ready to mix up the epoxy. Okay, I've rarely seen underside here, but I pulled it off the base so that you can see I've got the nacelles all clamped up, and I wanted to make sure there wasn't a lot of weight on the pylons, or the extra weight of all the clamps. So what I did is I just took it off the stand and set it upside down, and now I can let these pylons cure for a few hours before I come back to them. Then the next thing to do will be to eyeball them and to glue these guys in place. Okay, it's been a couple 3 hours of unmolested curing time on this epoxy, so it's time to strip the pliers or the clamps off of it and see how well it came out. All of the clamps are off and I've got it flipped back over, so now the important thing to do is get these guys on. But since I have cut off the locating pins, this all has to be done by trusty eyeball. So again, with some more slow setting epoxy, do a little ring around there, put it in, put some rubber bands on it front to back, and that'll give me the ability to kind of eyeball it and shift it around before it sets up. And then I'll do the other one. I don't want to try doing them both at the same time because this is an important thing. It's going to be a key feature, and if it's a little bit off, you're going to notice it. So I really want to make sure it is looking good and square. Okay, the tops are on and they are curing. I've got them rubber banded to hold them down or to hold them against there. I believe I've got them centered right and left, top and bottom. Hopefully there's not much of a, if any, twist to them. But it's a good time to let this walk away and let this cure for a while. Well, I'm back. I was pulled away for a few hours to help a buddy of mine put in a new screen door in his son's room. So happy to do that. And it also got me away from fiddling with this model while the resin was setting up, or while the epoxy was setting up. So it was handy for me not to be here. Last thing I want to do tonight is get the work on the deflector dish some, and I've got these bulbs embedded in there. I think what I need to do is take the sanding wheel and just flatten the tops of those a little bit, give me some more space between there. It's going to go here, and the dish itself is going to go here, and I need to increase some space between those. So I think the last thing I'll do tonight, get that in, and then maybe get this dish epoxied in tonight. Painting, it's going to be a tough thing because it's weird. You actually want light leaks because this is a solid type of orange, but you want to paint it blue. You want a blue light to come out from it. So you basically want a blue light spill coming out from around orange. So it's funky. Okay, I've got the blue light special going on behind where the deflector is. A couple of big 5mm, which, because even though I love strip lights and they make life a lot easier, you still can't beat a good directed 5mm LED if you really want to punch some light out. So we do that, put that in behind it, and then by the time you put the deflector itself in, it hides the hot spots of those big bulbs. There you go. And it looks like that when you're done. You pop this in. Now I think to glue this in, I'm going to use the 2-part JB weld as a dark epoxy, because that will help me. Let's make sure I got that in right side up. That will help me, there you go. That will help me block the source of that light, but the JB weld will also light block that joint. There you go. Okay, so I have just glued in, epoxied in, JB welded in the deflector dish, and that is where we're going to let it sit for the rest of the evening. I think we've got a good amount of actual construction done today. The thing is about something that is so fish-lipped shaped like this is it's very tough to get a clamp on it. The only way I could do it was to double over some sandpaper on either side of the clamp, so that not only is the clamp got something to grip to, but when it squeezes down into the plastic or the resin, the sandpaper also keeps the clamp in place. So otherwise it would just, it would just snip right off the sides. So I will let this set up for, I guess a few hours. I may take the clamps off right before I hit the sack tonight. Good morning, it's Wednesday. I'm tempted to say it is the last work day of the week, but who knows? I might get a touch done tomorrow before I post the video. Took all the rubber bands off that were keeping everything in place overnight, and we've got a good solid secondary hull going on here. And my goal for today is going to be, of course, there's a lot of cleanup. There's a lot of cleanup that needs doing on this thing, but I want to get this piece. I want to get this piece on today before I start roughing it up to do the cleanup, because A, I'm going to get a lot more glue glopped on that's going to need to be cleaned up. So why clean up and then clean up again? But secondly, once all of these wires are carefully ensconced inside that's going to give me a little bit more liberty to be a little rougher with the secondary hull. So my goal is to get everything. I still don't have the boards from Ralph yet. We had to backtrack and do a little bit of reprogramming on what I wanted him to do, so he had to pull it back out of the mail and do some changes, and I don't know if it's been mailed out again, so it wasn't going to show up this week anyway. But rather than wait for that board to come in, I'm just going to do all of these connections, run it to a ribbon cable, go straight out the top, and then deal with all of my wiring up here that'll be in the saucer. So basically just taking all of these wires and adding extensions to them and running them up so that I can close this thing up today. I don't really need to get back into here after today. So that's going to be my task, is to neaten up all this wiring, get the ribbon cable soldered on, get it secured, and get it ready to just pop out the top here, or out of the neck, and get the top of the secondary hull glued on. And then that will allow me to touch up the last of the seams that need to be touched up and get it ready for get it ready for a good cleaning, so that I can put it aside and do the serious work on the saucer that needs to get done. So let's start tackling this stuff. A quick look at the old rainbow spine here. Got this piece of ribbon cable here that I'm going to join up to all of this, and I'm just calculating the length that I need to get it up into here, which is where I want to do all of my circuitry attachment. So it looks like best case is I can cut it off about there and still have plenty of room. Cut it off there straight across, and then strip down to the 7 wires that I actually need. So, and you get to see what it looks like on the stand. Now, this post is going to be a little taller in real life than this, but hopefully we can do something about that pitch. But who knows? That's a pretty good representation of how it's going to sit on the stand, adding some height to it. But yay. Okay, so let's get this cut and get everything added down to there. I've got the top down, but I don't have it glued on yet. I'm trying to take the grinder to areas where things aren't quite meeting up as I would like. And once I get myself happy with all of the connection points, knowing that none of them will be perfect, and that's what the good Lord made putty for, I'm going to do the serious amount of gluing. And it would be like the nacelles yesterday, where I'll do 15-minute epoxy and really slop it in there and clamp the bejesus out of it. There's no other way around it. The rubber bands are going to come in very handy because, again, you've got sloped sides, which if you try putting a clamp on there, it's just going to slide off. So we've got to do something to band that together to glue it down. And that's where the big heavy rubber bands come in handy. Okay, remember what I said about Ralph and his transporter? Yeah. Talked to him Monday morning. He's already made the corrections, and it's Wednesday, and I've got it in my hands. Man is a genius, and he has a transporter. So I feel like I just had my brain delivered. Let's see what we got. Okay, here are the brains of my Galaxy class. Now, remote, which is nice. That's the whole idea. This is the main lighting board for the ship. This is the photon phaser board for the ship. He has already carefully pre-connected the powers to both of these, so we're good. And everything on here is color-coded, which is marvelous. So I'm going to sit down, pour myself a stiff drink, and study this wiring diagram. Okay, I've got the top off again. I closed everything up and started powering up some things to see how they looked. And I noticed I was getting a lot of blue spill up into these windows here. So I need to make a shield here that will keep those blue lights from spilling up in there and concentrate it more on the deflector itself. So that's what I need to do. Still getting a bit of white light on the sides. Kind of unavoidable because it's picking up ambient light. It's going to do that, and it's what happens when the whole thing's made out of clear. It's just going to do that. These guys here giving me the heartburn here. Before I close them up, I think I may want to replace just this inch of lighting with another one, just so that you can see I've already lost the first one there. I don't know what's causing that, but I don't like it. Okay, I'm ready to close this up, but I need to get some big fat rubber bands like this, the big thick ones, and I just looked around and don't have any, so I'm going to make a quick run to Office Max, and then I'll be back, and we will get this puppy closed up today. Alrighty, the deed is done. I just flipped it over and put some, I put some Bondo in this gap here that resulted from trying to fit this in. Didn't quite, fit exactly. It's resin, it's bound to have some gaps, but while it was in this position, I figured it's as good a time as any to do that. I am just checking to make sure that, yeah, we've got seepage. We're going to have seepage. It's a seepy thing because I really laid in the epoxy. I laid it in here just to reinforce the whatever I can out of it, but I've got this back down on the board so that as this dries it will keep the pylons square to each other. Let's just cross our fingers and take a look at this and see what happens. Hey, look at that. Look at that. I can take that. Yeah, I can take that. I can eat that all day for lunch. That's not bad. So this is where it'll sit until, well, at least overnight. At least overnight. Welcome back. It is Thanksgiving morning. I hope you all, by the time you will have seen this, have had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Just cleaning up a few things here. Took all of the rubber bands and bondage apparatus and tape and everything off of this, and this is one solid piece now. It's pretty good. I would say from here back it's solid state. It's like all resin and wiring, so we're all good to go. Now it looks like it's at an angle. It looks like it's sitting like this, and I think that's because of how it is sitting on the base and not the ship itself. If you look at it this way, if I can pull it up, you can, well, it's going to swing around. If I do this, you can see that it's pretty darn level. Now the engine's kicked down because the engine's kicked down, but that's pretty darn level. So happy with that. Lots of cleanup to do. I overdid it on the epoxy. I make no bones about that. I wanted it on the I wanted to err on the side of, oh my God, that's too much epoxy, rather than skimping and then having something sag later on. So, and I did pull up some paint when I was pulling up all of the tape and stuff that I used. But you know what? As much as I put tape on the inside to light block, it's a clear model. It's impossible to light block because every place there's an edge is going to transfer light back to the whole piece. So yeah, it's going to be an issue to light block this thing properly. A coat of black paint like it's on here is going to be called for here as well. But now that this is all closed up and I don't have to worry about hitting any of the delicate wiring, I can really go after this with the sanding sticks and things like that to really hone it back into shape. There'll be some grinding, I have no doubt, because I've got high spots and things like that that I need to be sculpted back into shape. But this is a great place to leave it for the long weekend, and I can come back to it on Monday. So, yeah, buddy. Now, and I've attached the saucer to it just to make sure everything still lines up, and it does. But now I can concentrate work on the saucer as well. But yeah, you can see some big old caverns in here. That's clear epoxy in there, so I might want to hit that with a little jot of paint so that I can see exactly what actually needs to be sanded, because it looks like a big gap, but it's actually clear glue over a big gap. So there's that to consider. And check all the lighting, make sure everything is still working. But it's coming along very nice and solidly. Okay, I figured before I shut down for the week I would give you a view of the completed, or at least complete to this time, Enterprise D. Yeah, look at all that bright light. And yes, you can see this is a ton of light leaks, but it'll get better. This is actually a window that has come off, and you'll get an idea of how bright the windows are going to be when we're done. Lots of light leaks to fix, and you can tell the most egregious of light leaks is this one, and I didn't even have the... There you go. I took some of it off the front so you can see that, but that's looking pretty darn sharp if you ask me. And that is going to bring us to a finish from this short week, short by 1 day. So got a lot of stuff, got big stuff put together, and now it's all a matter of getting it clean. It's all together, I just need to clean it up. So until next week when we will be back at this. Now it's Thanksgiving night now. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, it's going to be Monday, maybe a late start to next week before I can get back to the grind. But grind away I will, and until we meet again, be good to each other, build some models, and hope you had a happy Thanksgiving.